not read the title of the video? Then you'll have no idea why I just did that. I already talked about the PlayStation 1 back in my Castlevania video, but I can't help but nerd over it some more. The PlayStation was one of Sony's first game consoles and was supposed to be an add-on to the Super Nintendo, but never followed through, so they decided to make it a system by itself. I believe this was one of the popular CD systems, which actually put CD technology to good use, compared to the Sega CD, which were mostly FMV games that were compressed down so much that you could barely see it. The games that used PS1 tech were able to make use of 3D polygon graphics, and at the time, it looked really impressive. Along the years, I discovered a lot of great games that I've been missing out on, like Tomba, Toy Story 2, Tomb Raider, CTR, and Parasite Eve. There are also the popular hits that pretty much everyone and their dog knows about, like Spyro the Dragon, Final Fantasy VII, and Metal Gear Solid. But what about the game series before that? Crash Bandicoot. This is what was mainly competing with Nintendo's Super Mario at the time, according to the old commercials that used to air on television in 1996. Does anyone know what that guy in the costume is doing nowadays?
What? Are you talking to me? Honk the horn again, okay? 2 O's in Bandicoot, okay, pal?
Anyways, the Crash Bandicoot series has a lot of games, like not too many, but enough games at the moment, at least not like Sonic, where his game count is almost endless. There were 2 sequels, a kart racer, and a party game, all on the good old PlayStation. The sequels and CTR were developed by Naughty Dog, who are now well known for the Uncharted series, the Jak and Daxter series, and The Last of Us. And I hope everybody is excited for the sequel to Last of Us, like I am. After that was a whole bunch more Crash games, Twinsanity, Nitro Kart, Tag Team Racing, Mind Over Mutant, and so much more. Then later, the original games got remakes along with CTR, all on the systems of today. The remakes I find to be very challenging, especially with the smoother controls and Coco being a playable character. And at this very moment, I am playing CTR Nitro Fueled a lot since I got it recently a few weeks ago. Back to the topic of the video, we are reviewing the original Crash Bandicoot on the PS1, which in my opinion, to help you skip this video should you choose to do so, actually aged not so good. Now, don't get me wrong, the game is still pretty fun. When you are not trying to 100% the game, believe me, the completionist aspect of it is not worth it. Another random question, what exactly is a Bandicoot? Oh. Well, the game is not very accurate to Bandicoot anatomy then. The game starts off with an evil scientist. Well, that hasn't been done before. Also, full disclosure, I never played the Ratchet & Clank series yet. Crash Bandicoot escapes and has to save his girlfriend Tawna from Neo Cortex's experiment, and he has to travel across the 3 Wumpa Islands to save her. Now that is a pretty basic plot, and with a game like this, you don't really expect anything too complex, at least not like Kingdom Hearts. Huh? Controls are basic. You walk around in a 3D environment, and you can jump and do a spin attack, which everyone recognizes at this point. There are a few items you can collect, like the Wumpa Fruit, which are like the coins in Mario or the rings in Sonic. Getting 100 nets you an extra life. Along with the fruit, you can also get the Aku Aku mask, which acts as an extra hit you can take, but if you grab 3 of them without getting hit, you can gain temporary invincibility. As you might know, a majority of this game is very difficult. Just don't even try to attempt to get the gems, because you have to not die in the level at all. But if you want to be a completionist anyway, to get the gems in each level, you have to break every single box. Again, without dying. Luckily, the Insane Trilogy made it way more forgiving, where you could die any amount of times and could still get the gem, with the exception of the colored gems. You thought Dark Souls was hard? Try Crash Bandicoot on PS1! Despite the gem and relic challenges, the game is still a difficult journey to get through. Some deaths can feel a little unfair at times, although that might just be me. I am not very good at 3D depth perception sometimes. Sometimes enemies can just decide to kill you for whatever reason, even if you prepare your attack ahead of time. The obstacles are not to be taken lightly either. You have falling platforms, fire, spears, and even rolling stones. For an early PS1 game, the graphics in my opinion are actually pretty good, but are still outdated if you compare it with the Insane Trilogy. But when you compare it to other PS1 games like Spyro or Final Fantasy VII, it looks good despite the limited technology at the time. The controls are pretty smooth as well, despite the controller being over 20 years old. And a warning, I tried using the DualShock analog sticks with this game, but unfortunately, due to this game being an early title, the DualShock controller is considered too new for this game, and you have to resort to using the directional pad. The one thing that made this game difficult was saving. You thought that saving could be done with a menu option? Well, you would be dead wrong. The only possible ways to save the game are if you finish a bonus round or collect a gem. Yes! Seriously, they couldn't add a save button for whatever goddamn reason? Not only that, but if you couldn't save your game, they at least gave you a password option, but you'd better get out your pen and paper because there are a lot of PlayStation symbols to write down. Now, let's talk about the bosses. Just to quickly get to the point, the first one is so easy, I can just show you how to beat them with the gameplay footage. Now, for the rest of them, they can actually put up a good challenge, and you just have to have good timing with a few of them. With Ripperoo, you have to know where he is going to land, and jump on top of the giant TNT crates, and hope that he lands in the blast radius. I think this is a pretty neat idea for a boss. Koala Khan is a pretty simple boss as well. You have to spin attack boulders back at him, but you have to dodge some TNT crates here as well. You may think you can just spin it back at him as soon as possible, but the real kick here is that there are minecarts that come along once in a while and can block the boulder attack, so you have to time your attack just right. Pinstripe is the only boss I can think of that has a Tommy gun! You cannot just attack him right away. You have to hide behind the furniture to avoid the gunfire, and when he is either moving to the other side or reloading his weapon, you can have a chance to attack. Rinse and repeat, and you will eventually beat him. Embryo, you have to jump on flubbers that he throws at you, and for whatever reason, that lowers his health. Are they his DNA or something? After jumping on enough of them, he decides to turn into Frankenstein, and you have to jump on his head. The final boss, Cortex, shoots projectiles at you, and like every other video game, you have to hit them back at him, but it is only the green-colored ones. And that is the main ending for the game, unless you are a Master Chest and decide to get all the gems. Then you can go to the Great Hall level and jump across all the gems to skip the boss and get an alternate ending, which I don't find to be worth it unless you are playing the remaster on the Insane Trilogy. So, is the original PS1 game still good? Yes, absolutely. Is it worth going back to? Not really. The remastered trilogy is probably the best way to play. Not only the first game, but the second and third game, which happens to be my favorite in the trilogy. The Insane Trilogy has some cool trophies to collect, mostly for bragging rights, and it also has the best improved graphics for a PS1 remaster I have ever seen. The controls feel right on a DualShock 4 controller, and everything that made the original game difficult is a little more forgiving here. I cannot really explain anymore how much I love the Insane Trilogy, so maybe in the future I can look at the Insane Trilogy and give it a fair analysis that it deserves. Well, I hope you enjoyed my views on how the original PlayStation game held up. I hope I don't get any hate mail over this. Join me next time in 6 more months, because that's the time these videos take to get out. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to me, because these videos take a lot of effort to make, seriously. Do you have any idea how hard it is for me to write scripts for one person, which happens to be me? I don't think you do, because you're just a simple viewer who doesn't know anything about video. And also consider following me on social media. I promise not to be a jerk or a creep.